While we're waiting on Carlos, I'll just speak a couple of minutes on what's going on. This is John. I'm John. I'm the proprietor for Sovereign Canada. We are a liquor agency in Canada that imports a whole bunch of different family brands and makes them available to Canadians and the Canadian bon vivants and drink enthusiasts in bars and restaurants, etc. I'm a career bartender, so I've always had an incredible focus and importance for me on education. I think it's kind of our responsibility as a company participating in this environment to be sure that we're giving back to our communities. Spirited Sessions was started about 3.5 years ago, and the intent was to jump from market to market across Canada and create a community gathering and share a story or share some education, get everyone in the same room, have drinks together. And we can't do that right now, obviously, because of COVID. So we've decided to take Spirited Sessions online. And we're also have folded in a charity element.
Excuse me?
So Spirited Sessions, our goal has been, when we've taken it online, is to make sure that we're finding a way to raise money for different charities in Canada. So the first Spirited Sessions that we did, we were able to raise about $300 or so for the Canadian Professional Bartenders Association Relief Measures Fund. This Spirited Sessions, we're going to be raising money for the Bartenders Benevolence Fund. And I do think these charities are very important because there's a lot of people out of work in Canada, and it is, I think, when we're participating in this space, it is our civic responsibility to help out a little bit. I see Andrew Toplak is here. Andrew. Hi, Andrew. Andrew actually is sits on the board for the Bartenders Benevolence Fund. While we're waiting on Carlos, do you mind speaking a few minutes on the BBF and what it does? I think Coley can unmute. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, great. Yeah, sure, definitely. It's something we've had in existence for about 5 years, but with this crisis, we've ramped it up like crazy. And it's launching today across Canada in all the regions. And it's to support all front of house staff who are in need, in serious need. Of course, we would like to help everybody, but because there's a limited amount of money available, and it's the whole country involved, we really want to help people who are most in need or have some urgency.
That's amazing. So I mean, we're excited. We'll know how much we've raised at the end. We'll tabulate that and we'll announce that out. And then really sincerely from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I mean, I was kind of looking up at some old paperwork in the home office and seeing how Sovereign started, and it was just an idea on the back of the napkin behind the bar. And several years later, we're coast to coast, and we're all joining each other, and we're all doing it for the sake of education and community. And those are two extremely important core values. I see Carlos is back. He's checked the mezcal batch.
Morning, guys. I guess it's afternoon now. Thank you all, and thanks, John, for asking me to come and do this. This is a real pleasure and such a cool thing to be able to have so many people in sort of one space, and some faces I haven't seen for a while. So hi, guys. So I'm just going to give you basically a why I'm kind of doing this and who I am, and then I'm going to introduce Carlos, because he is the wealth of knowledge here. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I started a company called Trash Tiki a few years ago. In the September of last year, I opened a bar called Supernova Ballroom. And I guess through the course of the last couple of years, just talking about sustainability, I've started to focus a little bit more on curating spirits and sort of having a greater understanding of like the sustainability aspects that go into each one, and sort of the care and attention that it requires, which is pretty vast. So beginning, I guess it was January or February of last year, I was really privileged to be able to join the Sovereign team on a trip to go and see some of Mezcal Koch in person in Oaxaca. So I'm going to, that's kind of me. I'm going to introduce Carlos. So this is just such a cool brand, and I'm sure that he's going to go into a lot more detail than I am. But I really find that this is a wonderful thing, and I know that Carlos, you employ a lot of women in your company and a lot of members of the LGBTQ plus community, which is absolutely incredible. So I'm going to pass this over to you, and I am also a big supporter, obviously.
Yeah, thank you. Well, cheers. I'm Carlos. It's a pleasure to be with you. Hey, it's a pleasure to be with you, and I would like to start to talk a little bit about our project. I always introduce Koch, and it's in our philosophy. Koch is not just a brand. And why I say this, because when we start to promote Mezcal, the brand was not registered. Why? Because it was not, we were not creating a brand, and make a product and try to sell a product. We got a product and we start to promote. 2 years after, we registered the name. So Koch was born without being a marketing idea. It was an alive product that it came to the people and people start to like it. And then we become a brand. Now that's how we start. Any questions, please feel free, because this technology is the second time I do something like this. And it's, yeah, my niece is looking at me like I'm crazy talking with a computer, but okay, so 11 years ago, it was when we started the project. And since the beginning, I realized something. Today, maybe you have heard that there is a lot of brands that talk about the woman to be included in the mezcal production. But this is something that always has been in our culture. In Oaxaca, they were in the southeast of Mexico. Women are included in all the mezcal process. For simple reasons, like sometimes the master distiller, is working all day, because the process of mezcal, it takes you all day. Sometimes they need to take a nap. And the person in charge to check the distillation is the wife, is the woman behind them, They are in charge to feed very well for this hard work also, And I always like to share also with the people why we support the gay community is because in our culture, and the Zapotec culture in the Istmus of Oaxaca, which is the thinnest part of the country, is a bless to have a gay in the family. It's because the parents knows that this person that maybe will never get married is gonna be with them until the last day of their life. That's why the people recognize that. So I was trying to be inclusive of all what it means or culture, and transmit that in that bottle, in that liquid. It's more than an alcoholic product, which I like and I love. It's also trying to transmit you our feelings and love for our culture, for our people here. And I think we have also, Talia, right? The presentation. I don't know if we can use it, or what's the way that we want to do it. What do you think, Kelsey?
Yeah, Talia, are we able to share that presentation you had with everyone? Is that possible? Yep, there we go. Okay.
Yes. So nice. Something that I was explaining before. We are more than a brand. We are 52 families co-working, which this has become our life project. If you have any time to check in YouTube or just in Google, Koch Mezcal, something that BBC make from us, like 3 minutes. We were very happy to be called like the Mexican dream for our project. No, it's something that I think we are very, very proud. And it's the way that we understood at the moment that it was also a lot of people that was working in the States, and they came back to Mexico next to their families, and they were feeling ashamed that they came back without money, without nothing, you know? And they found again something that a product that they were growing with the mezcal, and mezcal give them a job again. And now a lot of these friends, you know, they also can travel to the States because we have beautiful histories, like people that was deported from the States, and they are producers with us. We co-work. When we get their visas, you know, the government stamp in their visa just for Koch Mezcal events. So I think for us as company, we almost cry at that moment, you know, like get the visas for people that was deported, but trusting in our project. Okay, so can we pass to with the presentation? Okay, this is a question that always people say, what it means Koch, you know? I think there's a lot of theories about the distillation in America, you know, in general. But before that, we will talk about that. Before that, there is something more interesting in our culture, in Mexico in general, and it's the consumption of the raw material for the human being. You know, the Aztecs used to drink pulque. If you know pulque, you know, it's just the juice of the agave plant. But there is just only one type of agave that it can give you this pulque, which is agave pulquero, or the technical name is called Ferox Koch. Here is the Koch name, you know, because I think it's the origin, sorry for my dogs, it's the origin of the consumption of the raw material. And it's amazing because in the top of the agave, we just need to make a hole and all the juice start to come. It's like a Mexican beer. And the reason is because after the juice comes, it's just sweet, you know? After a couple of hours, you will have around 4 and 5% alcohol. And it ferments in the same plant, in their own plant, which is great. So I think that's, we historically, we know that the consumption, it was made through the pulque. So there is the importance of Koch. Koch is the origin, is how human beings get in touch with this plant. And it's also something amazing because, you know, mezcal, we know that the word mezcal, sorry, just a minute.
Not a boring start.
Yes, thank you. So mezcal means cooked agave. You know, here we can check. You know, it's mezcali in Nahuatl. That was the language of the Aztecs. And it's interesting because mezcal, you know, is cooked agave. But going back to the name, the origin of the pulque is uncooked agave. And you can drink it, you know, which is, I think, something that will be very nice to share with the people outside Mexico, but you can stop the fermentation. It just will become vinegar after some days if you don't take care about the temperature and stop the gel to keep fermenting. Okay, I'm pretty sure many of you know about the cooked agave, what it means, mezcal, and this is the theories about mezcal. As Mexican, obviously, I would love to know that it's pre-Hispanic knowledge. But my logic, until today, you know, there's people saying that it's a way how to certify that is pre-Hispanic the knowledge. Being honest with you, there is not. We cannot trust yet in the info that we read in the social media. No, it's not from any university or research. It's just people sharing info that they believe that it could be pre-Hispanic. As Mexican, I would love that, because it gives us a plus. But my logic tell me that it's a Spanish knowledge, European. And the reason, because the Arabs, they bring this knowledge to Spain, and Spain bring it to Mexico. And also the Philippine distillation, which is the distillation in clay pot, the Spanish in copper, European distillation, and Philippines, the clay pot, Why these two theories, it makes sense. Philippines, it was a colony from Spain, so they used to ship everything to Acapulco in Mexico, and then they put, everything that they bring from Philippines and China to Veracruz, and they ship it again to Europe. So in this process, when they were, shipping everything into the Mexican territory, a lot of knowledge stay here. Also in Mexico, in our culture, in Puebla, in Oaxaca, maybe you have seen a Mexican woman dressed with a lot of color, and the reason is because we used to dress a lot of silk, Also in Mexico, we have something called China Mexicana and China Oaxaqueña. And it's because women were used to dress silk, because all this economical movement from the colonies, Philippines colonies into Mexico, and then shipped back to Europe. ¿Podemos pasar al otro, Talia? Gracias. By the way, this is the mezcal, and this is the water. Okay. In the world, we have a lot of species we have more than 200 species of agave. 87% grow in Mexico, but we have 104 endemic. Interesting, in our culture, it's not just for the beverage, The first is spiritual medicine. If we see mezcal, and you talk today even with any producer, in any community, if you ask them mezcal, what is the use? Always it will be spiritual. The first, as medicine, also when you are sad, here people, when they drink, it's like a medicine. But if we see also, 1 week ago, I was talking for the first time using Zoom with people in Belgium, and I was in a chat with Hendrix, with people from Hendrix. And we were talking also about the history of mezcal and gin. And we find something in common, both products were born in a moment as medicine, also the gin. So it was really interesting to see, and maybe all the alcohol in the world, it was at the beginning more in a spiritual way. Also, it's food. When I was a kid, I used to go to the market with my mom, and you were like, "Hey, mom," and trying to get a piece of cooked agave. That was our candy when we were kids. The still beverage and ferment beverage are the pulque, and also we use the fibers in the past to make clothes and ¿cómo se dicen mecates? Talia, can you help me, Talia, with this word?
Like fibers to knit sort kind of how do you say, like lace?
That it was in the peninsula of Mexico a big industry to create this type of like laces, for the boats, create of the fiber of the agave. I don't know in English how it's called, sorry. It's mecates in Spanish. ¿Puedes pasar al siguiente?
It's rope.
Rope.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
next one.
Everybody asked me also the denomination of origin of mezcal. 11 years ago, it was literally 99% Oaxaca, a little bit from Guerrero. In the last 5 years, it has been a lot of change, you know, which I appreciate the way to include more states of Mexico, but also I'll be super honest with you, and this is my point of view. But states like Tamaulipas, they don't have a tradition producing mezcal. If you try a mezcal from Tamaulipas, literally is tequila, an industrial tequila. If you go to Durango, well, now there are some people doing good stuff, in my opinion. Zacatecas is, again, it's a mezcal that you will find in the market. It's completely industrial. Michoacan, you know, they are trying to save the way of the history of distillation, of artisanal distillation, but they are so close also to Guadalajara, to Jalisco, that they have distilleries, big distilleries. Guanajuato, they don't have nothing, but they are in the denomination of origin. San Luis Potosí is the same. The only people that I know there, they produce in an industrial way. Guerrero, I think they have nice products, and Oaxaca, you know. So Oaxaca, Guerrero, some stuffs in Michoacán, some stuffs in Durango, and Puebla, that is just a little piece of Puebla that it was the last included. They have some artisanal mezcal. And then I would like also to share something that I can see here in our industry, which we are in this alcohol industry, you know, and always the pressure of big companies make the denomination of origin some change. I will say that Puebla was included because of Montelobos, you know, and because they knew that it will become a Campari, and they need where to invest. And in Oaxaca, as it works today, or territory and is communal, you know, you can own the land. They push a lot to have Puebla included. And we know that they are building a distillery there, you know, so you can see the power of companies behind even a denomination of origin. It's something that I like to share because always gossip is funny.
Carlos, do you think that that's going to cause some issues with agave supply then? These industrial production facilities?
I don't think so. Also in Puebla, there is, for the last 7 years, a lot of people planting a lot of agave. I think also this is the, how do you say, shortage of agave? Mm-hmm. You know, I think it has been an illusion created by tequila. You know what it happens like some years ago? Tequila noticed that mezcal was selling for more than the double of they were doing, you know, for 3 times their price, coming from the same raw material. So the 3 big houses that control all the tequila, you know, and one of those, you know, like Cuervo, they are big, you know, they are, and I'm very happy. They are a Mexican family, you know, doing, I think as business, they are running well, but they are also very clever how they can control the supply of agave, you know? So I think they create this idea that there is no mature agave. But being honest, it's a little bit more difficult today to get the perfect agave, you know, the age that you need it. But in 11 years, I always share with the people that there is not that shortage in Oaxaca, you know, and in Jalisco, I have some good friends, you know, the Camarena family, and you know, Guillermo Sousa also, and they tell me, yeah, but you know, we have agave. Just imagine if you see like Ocho or Fortaleza or these brands, they keep growing, you know, and it's true, you know. I think if we see it from another point of view, the big brands are trying to create that, so they are able to increase $2-3 in a bottle, which for them is a lot, you know. But I can see that. I will tell you in mezcal. I mean, John is a guy that knows me years ago, and he knows that in our speech as company, as brand, it never has been, hey John, we need to increase because, you know, there is no more agave or something like this. It has never been in our speech, you know. John can correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think, just to jump in for a second, I think there's a difference between the fact that you're not contracted so much, right? And you have a little more space to be able to grab mezcal from, where a lot of different palenques and tequila facilities that are brands or contracted brands, they're subject to the actual market price for agave.
Yeah. True. So, ¿puedes regresar por Italy? Okay, so, well, this is some countries in the world that we are, but our category, something interesting to know, you know, is young or silver, as tequila is called, aged mezcal, and avocado or pechuga. You know, we as first philosophy, you know, we don't age mezcal, you know, but I also will share with you, like 2 years ago, I came to visit different places and products like cognac, and I realized something. Cognac as a spirit is nothing. The value of cognac is aging, you know, and it was amazing. So I thought, what if we have a great product today and we try to age in the correct way? Because it's another knowledge which we don't know here. Maybe that's why we don't do it, because if we are honest, it's something that is not in our knowledge. So there is a guy from Cognac working 2 years ago with us in Oaxaca. He's in charge of aging program, and we just got some super interesting things. You know, have you ever thought about a tepestate age, you know, an arroqueño age, tobasiche age? But, you know, some of these, like the tepestate, it was at the day 42. It was just perfect. And what I've been sharing with the people is that for me, the mezcal is an animal. So I saw how wood can domesticate that animal, you know, in just 43 days. You know, one tepestate, it becomes so soft, you know, with all the taste of the agave, you know, but controlled, you know, because mezcal is explosive, you know, and I like it, but I'm also learning how to appreciate another stuff. And I know all you guys does, because, you know, you are in this industry and you just not are into mezcal or tequila, you are in different kind of products, which I think you will appreciate one day. Next time that I'm in Canada, I will bring all these things for us to try. Even John says, don't do that. Too many options. Okay, and avocado and pechuga. I think pechuga is a traditional. I think we have some pechugas, and it's the most traditional way. Everybody always ask themselves, why do you put food or things into the pechuga? Easy. The reason is because if my daughter is going to get married, or there is any party or festivity in the community, the man is going to be distillating, but the woman is cooking. So they don't know that they do this. They do a pairing, you know, but they do the pairing into the distillation. You know, if they make mole, in Mexico, we don't eat the pechuga. The pechuga, that's the chicken breast, you know, it has not too much taste. So they hang it in the distillation, and they put herbs, fruits, the same that you use for the mole. What the kitchen says, okay, I have enough and I have this that I will not use it anymore. The men put it in the distillation pot. And that's how it burned the pechuga, you know, as a tradition of use everything, you know. You don't throw this to the trash. You reuse it, you know, and you make a different flavor for the mezcal that it will be pairing with the food. Okay, next one. Thank you. Okay. This is the process. I'm pretty sure many of you know it, but the first step, harvesting, you know. There's two things that we can talk here. One is the time that the agave it needs to grow. I also like to share that there is a lot of misunderstood in the age of the agaves. I see a lot of projects saying that the Arroqueño agave, it takes 25 years. You know, 2 weeks ago, I was checking on the web and I saw a Tepestate, people saying a 35 years agave. It's not true. And today we must be clever to don't fall in this marketing that some projects are doing, you know? They are trying to sell us time as if, and they want to sell mezcal as cognac, you know, like aging, like timing. But I believe that even if we talk about espadín and we are talking for the agave to grow for 7 years, I don't know another spirit in the world that the raw material, it takes so long to grow. If you know something, please share with me, because I don't know another spirit in the world that, you know, just talking from espadín 7 years to harvest once, and you need to plant and wait another 7 years. It's not, I don't know, you know, like grains you can harvest 2 times a year, a sugar cane each 7 months. So, you know.
Carlos, we had a question from somebody earlier that said, do you think that espadín, especially given 7 years for maturity, will become more scarce or more expensive as the main agave that's used in most mezcal?
Yes, it will be normal, but I think as has been the driver of the mezcal, everybody will be afraid to raise the price, you know, because today it was the product more accessible for the people. What I think that we will see, it's more offer of wild agave. And the reason is because I can share with you today is some wild agaves like Arwinsky is becoming almost the same than produce espadín, you know? So I think we will see more offer or also blends, you know, and it should be, we'll see. For example, in the last years with espadín, you know, in our project, we have been losing our margin, which is not bad, you know, because we have different products, and we understand that it's also part of our job to keep educating and sharing with the people, you know. If we just increase pricing in this small category, I think will be, we will limit the mezcal growth. Yeah, I hope I answered your question. Okay, harvesting is the same for the different process, artisanal and ancestral. Always we take between 2 and 3 days to harvest 10 tons. You know, almost the biggest artisanal oven is for maximum 12 tons. You know, that's the maximum. And we take 2 days to harvest. And we do it with 4 or 5 people. You know, we harvest that tons. It takes, it's very hard work. And more because you are under the sun and here it's super hot. You know, that's the hardest part. I believe the sun. You know, it's not the same that be working and harvesting in the sun that be in the sand of the beach taking the sun. A big difference. 4 days cooking is also for both process, artisanal and ancestral process. It depends, and this is something that we need to talk a little, maybe. I know that many of you are very worried about sustainability.
Nah.
Yeah. And this is something that we need to understand and also be honest, you know, as producers with ourselves. This is one of the most dangerous part for the sustainability. Why? Because we use wood. And the people that you have been in Oaxaca, when we drive to the different communities, I'm pretty sure you have noticed something. You don't see thousands of trees like you see it in the forest in Canada. You know, people here will be happy with all that trees that you have up there. But if you are here and you drive to the communities, you don't see, you know, huge trees and thousands of trees. So this is something important that we need to start to keep changing. How? We have a laboratory, a distillery laboratory, where we use gas to put into the stones. But, you know, there is a smoky taste, a little thing in all the mezcal. So we also use around 200 kilograms of wood, which is just the 20% of what we use. For each time that we cook, we use 1 ton. You know, 1 ton, it could be here 2 trees, you know? So I think it's important for me to share with you this, because you will be able to talk with another projects. And I think this can give you some ideas to ask them, you know, and if they are doing something, you know, for this. We also are planting trees in different communities and different stuff. But I think if you ask us, you know, in general, talking for all the producers and brands, you make us a favor, because we need to be super worried in this point. Okay.
Do you think that that's a fairly commonly done thing, or is that pretty specific to Mezcal Koch, is to use gas?
No, it's a laboratory palenque. If we are in the second batch, if the next month we are gonna make another batch. When we compare the 3 batches, if it's the same taste and everything, we can say that we could change. Another way, we will be modifying the artisanal mezcal, you know, or doing something. So it's a big challenge, but we will find a way how to. But the most important there is reduce the consumption of wood. You know, if we just use the 20% today, then the 100 that we are using today, it will be good.
Baby steps. Cool.
Yes. Then we have the grinding. It depends in the communities. You know, Ejutla, that is the valley of Oaxaca, we use an ox. If you go to the North Sierra, they use donkey. If you go to the San Baltasar, which is also the north, they use a horse. Why we keep using the grinding with the animal? When you take it to the fermentation vats, if you use a machinery, you know, you expose all the sugars. So fermentation become faster. And in the fermentation is where we get a lot of taste, flavors, aromas. And when you do it with an animal and with the stone, you leave small pieces of agave. So for the yeast, it's more complex to transform that sugars into alcohol, and it takes longer. If you do it with the machinery, you know, like, for example, you know, I can talk about Santa Catarina Minas. It will be a good example for fermentation. It's a beautiful mezcal what you get from Santa Catarina Minas, but almost all the taste, it comes from the distillation that is in clay. If you try it, it's earthy, you know, because almost all the community use today the machinery, but the fermentation is faster. If we leave that little pieces, it takes for us between 7 and 10 days. And we get more taste in our batches. And it doesn't matter if it's in clay or copper. It takes the same time. Then here, just for give you an idea, how much do we produce in a copper distillation pot? In 24 hours, you know, we get between 100 and 120 liters of double distillation in 24 hours. And it's 350 liters the capacity in a copper still. So it means that 24 hours working, you know, and that's how we work in mezcal. When someone starts to distillate one fermentation vat, it will take you around that time. So you keep doing that. And at the end, you just get between 100 and 120 liters, you know, so it's small quantities. And why 300 liters or capacity for the copper still? Is because it's what one human being can handle, you know. If it will be bigger, it will be difficult for someone to do it. Okay, podemos pasar al otro. Okay, something also interesting that I'm pretty sure that you also know about the biodynamic wine. You know, when you read and when I learn more about the biodynamic, you know, and the more la gente más cerrada, la gente más, the people more straight on the idea of biodynamic, they also think in the moon, you know, when you need to harvest and when you need to plant, and everything is based on the phases of the moon. You know, when you talk also with producers in the communities here, we are based on the same. We harvest because it's full moon, or we plant because it's gonna be a full moon. So mezcal has been biodynamic, yes, because it has been mystical and cultural and spiritual, the production, you know. So it's funny that also mezcal is very biodynamic in all the expressions that we can say. And also something interesting, there is different mezcales, and fermentation is very exciting for me because we always create new yeast. You know, there are 3 ways as mezcal today is doing, and nobody's gonna tell you this. 1, not using nothing natural, creating new yeast each time, which it will make you take between 7 and 10 days for fermentation. And when it's cold, sometimes 15 days. 2nd, when the people use from the first, or from one batch that you are having, when it's almost ready, you take 20 liters of that yeast and you put it in the next one. So you accelerate for 2 to 3 days the fermentation, you know, which is still being natural. And the 3rd, which is adding a chemical, you know, and it happens, yes, it's happening, you know, in also in mezcal. And there is, I always say that we need, as consumers, as brands, as everyone, like also sharing with a community called Matatlan, because here maybe the 90% of mezcal, and you know, we are friends of many of these people. We need to know that they sometimes add sulfato. They I don't know the name in English. Sulfate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they accelerate the fermentation and they get it in 3 days. So I think that's also something cool, you know, for us also as consumers to have these questions in mind for any product that we can get of mezcal, obviously. ¿Puedes pasar al otro? John just is smiling.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's Hayacatlan.
Ya. A ver, déjame mover. Ok. Bueno, esto es lo mismo, Talia, del inicio. Okay, this is the anatomy of the plant. There is something interesting in how do we reproduce the agave. You know, it's also a plant that it can be reproduced in 3 ways. One, from the same roots, you know, you get new agaves from seeds. And I think the most spectacular is from the flower. After you have the blooming, you can cut with a knife the flower. You leave just a bulb that it has, the plant, and one agave is gonna born in the top of the COYOTE or the blooming. And from one bloom of one agave, we can get hasta 3,000, even 3,000 agaves, which is a lot. So I don't know how to. Tú, ya no los veo. Ustedes sí me ven, ¿no?
Yes.
Ok, listo. Ay, no veo tu presentación, Tali. I'm just seeing John.
What happened?
We can still see you guys, and we can still see the presentation.
Yeah.
Have to deal with John's mug for a minute.
I just see you, John. Here. Hey, John. There. Good. Puedes pasar al otro. Okay, so I will tell you for the agaves, you know, espadín, it takes 7 years. Oh, here. Yeah, lo veo.
Yeah.
7 years. This is the arroqueño, and I think it's one of the agaves that people always say that it takes between 25 years, you know, but it takes between 10 and 12 years. No more than that. It's the only endemic, or that it has a name, from Oaxaca. And for you to know, also, espadín, you know, today are in a chat with different actors in the industry, because espadín, it seems that it doesn't belong to Oaxaca. It's fun, but we will find in the next months. Okay. ¿Me quieres ayudar con este, Talia?
Yeah. Here, well, we got the arroqueño from Koch Mezcal, which our region is located in Rio de Jutla, as you can see in the map. The map is from the Oaxaca state. And you can find some notes in the aromatics. You can say that it begins as a robust and savory expression. There is a freshness in the beginning with notes of herbs and fresh lime, but that quickly unfolds to reveal spice, grilled meat, and a solid but not aggressive smoke. Orange, riverstone, and lemon peel as well. And then on the palate, you can feel, or you can find lime juice and tropical fruits such as ripe mango, kiwi, and pineapple. So sweet orange and notes of quince. Our expression, it's of course, it's a blanco joven. It's a wild agave. Arroqueño is considered a wild agave. Artisanal method, and it's handmade in Rio de Jutla village. 47 alcohol volume.
Yeah. So something from this agave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's massive. You know, this is one of the agaves that one agave you can have almost half a ton. You know, the biggest agaves that we have harvest is arroqueño. You know, one agave, after we take out the leaves in Rio de Jutla, which is the valley of Oaxaca, that's why maybe the mezcal is very mineral. You know, if I tell you one note that it represents for me arroqueño, it's minerality. You know, and it's because it's from the valley, it's very dry, and it's a huge agave. You know, here, as I said, half a ton. You know, it's a lot. But these agaves we have harvest. Puedes, and always remember, you know, people say that it's 25 years. If you go to YouTube channel and you see Koch, you will see also we have 3 different producers. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So you will see three different producers talking about the aging of the agave, you know, and no one says that it's more than 12 years, and they have been planting for the last 60 years, 50 years. Then we have the Karwinski. That is also from the valley. I believe that this is more earthy, minerality and earthy. You know, there is a lot of ways. Maybe if you think in one mezcal from, again, Minas, maybe. They call it, we call it Tobasiche, they call it Largo, you know, the Karwinski. In Oaxaca, there is something that if you get the same agave from different region, you will get different names. Sometimes barril, with us is barril, but with another friends, they will call it San Martin or Marteño. So it's also interesting always to check the things in a bottle. The name of the agave, but where it comes from, the product. Because then you will know that you like Tobasiche, you know? So if you like Tobasiche from Koch, you will like Largo from Real Minero, you know? Or you will like Marteño from another brand, and, you know, different names. Puedes seguir con este. This is, you know, everybody always have in their mind that maybe the agave, it has the same shape. The Karwinski is like a palm tree, you know? While you are, or it's growing, it starts to grow like a palm tree. I can see Olex with a palm tree in his back. Hello.
Carlos, we just had a quick question from somebody. Why has Koch chosen to distill to or bottle at 47% alcohol?
If we, in Oaxaca, we know something that is called venencia. You know, the venencia, it's a bamboo, you know, with a hole in the bottom. And we have the jícara. So we make the bubbles, and maybe you have heard about the bubbles and the volume of alcohol. You know, this is, when you are in a distillery, you know, everybody have to things to reduce the volume of alcohol, because straight from the distiller, we will get between 52 to 59% alcohol. So to consume in the communities, they add or tails or water, you know, from the river, from the spring, from wherever they use the water. When they do the venencia, always mezcal, it will be between 46, 48. You know, that's the consumption here. So that's why we decided to put it in 47, because if I offer Koch in any community where people has been involved in mezcal, they will appreciate that volume of alcohol, you know? It's also respecting the tradition of drinking mezcal.
Perfect.
Okay, this is another type of agave. It's called Mexicano. It seems a little bit like tequilero or like espadín, but this is smaller, you know? It's smaller of 2 meters, but small. It's small compared to the other agaves. Okay, these agaves.
We also include the human shape behind the agave shape, so you can have a comparison of the shape of and the volume or the size of the agaves related to a human average person.
See, maybe you see some little animals here with in the presentation, and in Mexico we have something called nahuales, and the nahual is your animal soul. And in all the communities there is an animal soul for, you know, for each agave. So we put it and we share it just for you to know what is doing that animal there. Okay, the Mexicano is the not understood mezcal, in my opinion. It's in 11 years, I have seen that people, it feels complex to understand, and it's complex, the taste. If you have the chance to try it, do it, and please let me know if you compare that to any other mezcal, which is a very complex agave on taste, in the taste. I think all this we can share with you. I think John has their email. I think we have something más adelante, Talia, that it's more interesting. I mean, this is the region, you know, from Oaxaca, but I think that I can share with you this, you know, because it's the notes. And my taste and my palate is completely different than yours and I, whatever. A ver, Talia, ¿puedes adelantar este, porfa? This is interesting. Maybe you have heard about COYOTE. You know, COYOTE, it was one of our products that we launched. And today, we just produce around 80 liters each year. Also, I think John asked us for some, and I think we couldn't send it because, you know, it's super small production. You know, it's, if you also see a COYOTE, which is the image that you can see here. And let me correct something because, Atalia, estamos mal en la altura. Okay. This is not 2 meters. This, it will be no more than 80 centimeters. This agave, just for you to know. We have a plate here, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So this, if you try it, please try this COYOTE. I know that you also know another COYOTE from Sola de Vega. That's a different type of COYOTE. You know, that's why it's so difficult to try to, you know, to express like each single agave because it depends on the region. That's why I said that it's very complex. ¿Me pasas al otro, Talia? Porque estos son los agaves. Sí, well, this is the espadín. Tenemos más de la presentación adelante. Creo que me gustaría más hablar de. Sí.
Ok.
Sí, porque esos son solo los productos.
Well,
Sí. Es que esto lo podemos compartir. Okay. I think, guys, that I can share with you like the, you know, the tasting notes and everything. But I think there is some little stuff that it will be better to share with you, you know, and the cultural facts of mezcal and other stuff that we can talk. And please, if you have any question, and I don't know how much time do we have also, but Kelsey, if you can help us, I think it will be really nice to, you know, I see that there's a lot of people. So maybe you have any question, you know?
We did have a question. So they, someone was asking, what is the most popular type that you grow or purchase, or does that just depend on the region? What is the most popular type of, or like species of agave? Is it espadín for Koch?
Yes, as I said, is the driver, you know, is the one that we have been cultivating for a long time. But today I would say that with Koch in Canada, maybe you have 10 SKUs. In Mexico, we have more than 40, you know? So that's something that we have been doing the last years, you know? We are not producing more from one agave. We are becoming more open with the different products, you know? Why? Because, exactly, because that's also a way how to create a balance on consumption of different agaves, you know? And I think this is also something I make crazy our partners like Sovereign in Canada, you know, because we have many SKUs. But I think if we talk about sustainability, is also something interesting, you know? Most of the projects, you will see that they just push like 1 or 2 products all the time, you know? Why, if we have in mezcal all these possibilities? I always like to share also, you know, it's like in the wine, you know, each year you have a vintage of wine. That's something also that we have in mezcal, and I think we need to promote a little bit more and different type of agaves, not just being with 2 agaves in the market.
It makes a lot of sense to be doing that in terms of not having monocultural farming. We've all seen what that's done to land. There was another question that somebody asked is what, when you were working with the cognac and aging, what types of wood were you using in your barrels?
We have American oak, we have French oak, we have lenga, from Brazil. We have different type of toast. We have ex-cherry barrels, which I think it's a Mexican cherry, which is good. We have ex-bourbon barrels, but mostly Hungarian also we have. I have found that French oak, it goes well with mezcal. American oak is just too much vanilla on it, and it modify faster the taste of the agave. The French oak, it has been becoming a little bit more interesting for me on mezcal, and lenga, which is a type of wood from America. Yeah. A ver, ¿tienes otro después de esto, Talia? Uh-huh. Something that I think is also interesting to share with you. In these 11 years, we are cultivating more than 200 hectares of agave. And as Kelsey says, it's not a monocultive. We are not just planting espadín. We are planting tepestate, tobalá, karwinski, agave. Maybe some of you have been in Jalisco, in Tequila. Maybe some of you have been seeing the view, in the or the landscape of agave. And maybe you thought that it looks super beautiful. But I will ask you something. Did you saw the soil and not just the plants? I don't know if somebody was there and somebody can tell me it was there. But why I say that if you saw the soil, because if you see any picture in the web, in Google, you will notice the soil looks dead. And the reason is because in a monocultive, they add herbicides. That's why you don't see herbs, you don't see grass, you don't see nothing. But we just focus on the beautiful that you looks all the agaves. But that's something that I realized, and we are certified organic. And I love to walk into our fields and see the grass and see the rabbits running there. For some people, it's like if you are not taking care of the agave, or people will say, we are losing some kilograms or nutrients in the land, like, food for the agave. But it's so much better. In the other way, we create erosion in the soil. So that's why it's really good. And the next time that you visit any agave field, I will invite you to ask why there is not any herbs and I just see agaves. It's important to see the life that it keeps going, and even where you are farming agave. How do we help in the communities? Because this is something interesting. When Koch starts, we just started in San Baltasar, which is a community in the North Sierra of Oaxaca. And after, with Pedro, my partner, we said, okay, let's produce a arroqueño, the one that I was telling you that it's like almost half a ton. And I came to Ejutla, And in that region in the valley, I was like so close to buy the agave and come to produce it in our distillery. But I met Adrian Bautista, and he take me to his palenque. He said, I'm gonna sell you the agave because I need the money, but I also produce mezcal. So he gave me one mezcal, and I fall in love of his work and everything. And I told him, it's better if you produce your agave and, you know, and we bottle your mezcal. And he said, it sounds good. So that's how it starts. And then that was the second family. And then it became a third and a fourth and 5 and 6. And then when I realized we were like 20 families working, and when I realized that it was a waiting list for people to join us in the company, and today we are 52, the presentation the last week of Talia, but we are 58. We have been given for free to the communities agaves to reforest, you know, in the wild. You know, how it works, the economic system of the mezcal, you know. If you come from any state in Mexico, you, even if you are Mexican, you cannot go to San Baltasar and trying to harvest agave in their fields, you know. Just the people from San Baltasar is allowed. But in this community, they also have people that are focused for generations in sell wood, you know, for distillation. And people that has been for generations just harvesting in the mountains. Each one has their economic eslabón. It's their economic part.
Link. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the community. So the agave that bring in donkeys, the agave, you know, they have been doing it for generations. Also the people that bring wood, the people that are specialized in going and harvest, the people that are specialized and help us also to for distillation. You know, how is the economic of mezcal it works in the communities. More than 1 million agaves has been germinated, and today they have like 500,000 baby plants has given for free to different communities where they have been planting in the forest. And we also pay them to go and plant. We give them the agaves for free, and we pay the people to go to the mountains and plant again. And we always share with them, you know, this is for also the future of the kids or the new generations, you know. If they will keep doing and harvesting, it will be easiest for them if we plant today, you know. And it's also for the nature, you know, but it's easier for them to understand when you tell them that it's part of their business, you know. But we also do both. ¿Puedes seguir el otro?
Yeah, we're done.
Perfect. So waste, ¿puedes regresar? So waste is super important, guys. You know, almost if you have been in mezcal facilities, you will see that always we are next to the rivers, you know, because of this situation globally, we couldn't do the correct things. But in the next months, we have invested for the last 3 years in a big biodigester. Is the first one in our industry that is in San Baltasar, and not just Koch, you know, different brands that are there. We will give it for free to the community, and all the waste, it will be put it there, and it will become abono. How do you say this?
Nutrients for the plants.
Yes. And also at the end, we have the clean water, and it goes into the San Baltasar River again. But it has been a project that I made with Oaxacan engineers and everything, and it's the first one, and it's big, and it's going to help all the community, not just Scotch. It's, you know, like 4 more brands that they were there today, they will be able to use it, because the idea here is to not create contamination, you know. That's the idea. do you have any question? Please ask me anything that you want.
That's pretty amazing what you've done too. You know, it's one thing to maybe have a single distillery that's a more industrial process, but you've really fed the money back into communities so that they're more self-sustaining. So it's a really incredible thing that you've done with Koch. Did anyone have any questions? Do you want to pop them into the thread at the moment? I think we've been kind of going through them as we go, so we just, yeah, continue.
We can. Dylan Brentwood, did you have something? I saw there was a couple. I'm just gonna unmute you. Please don't bomb the chat. Dylan, go ahead.
Oh no,
You're on the air.
My question was
Kelsey
covered. No, thank you so much for the presentation. My question was already covered, but that was excellent.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Nick Box, you're up next here. You're going to be on the air with Kelsey and Carlos. Just 1 second here. Find you. There you go.
Hi. Thanks. And I was just curious, with all these families that are producing for Koch Mezcal, what is the overall production collectively, like annually, or I don't know? Is this working?
Sorry?
If you want to say that again, I don't know. Yeah. Do we still have you? Okay, he's just
All
gonna.
right, I've muted Nick.
Huh?
And we're waiting on his question.
He's typing. Yeah.
I see one question here from Rohit. How would you compare Koch Mezcal to competitor brands and varietals? That it's sort of a funny, linear, very kind of westernized way of thinking about agave spirits in a sense, isn't it? I'm not sure what to say that is something signature Koch. I can tell you the best-selling SKU for Koch in Canada right now is the Koch Espadin, and that one is listed in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. I think New Brunswick just got one. If Evan can correct me, it is now at the SAQ in Quebec. Through our sister agency Molly Pitcher, and also there's a pending one in BC. So it's an enormous SKU for us, and the one definitely that is the most price accessible. I know Carlos was saying we have about 11 or 12 of all 43 SKUs that are available in Canada. We would love to have more. The way that we can have more, obviously, is if you continue to support what we're doing, we can definitely bring more. And it's really just, I mean, in full transparency, it's just a matter of cash flow and how much inventory you're holding and loading containers up. It's sort of a boring answer, but true. But the more you continue supporting us, the more momentum we have, and the more investment that we can make into increasing the amount of SKUs that we have.
And if you kind of look at like specifically the process and the care and the attention to community, and if that's kind of going into that side of it, the end quality of the product, if you're comparing it to different mezcals, is quite high. And then I mean, it just comes down to a personal palate preference. But if you kind of look at all of the system and process and thought and care and like attention to women and working and the LGBTQ community and kind of all of those things, comes out pretty high for me. I don't know.
I like this question. There is something that is signatures for us. I would say yes. If you look, if there is any other brand with so many expressions of products in terroir, which is a word that I love for mezcal, I think there is not any other brand, and I think it's something that it makes a difference, with us. We have, 43 different products in Mexico, but then we have special editions, and with the special editions, we have 100, Why? Because mezcal world is that complex, is that big, you know. Espadín from San Baltasar. For example, in Canada, you have Espadín from Sola de Vega, I think, and Espadín San Baltasar.
Right.
But we have 4, 5 different Espadines, you know, in Mexico. Because if it comes from another community, it's another terroir. That's it, you know? And I think that's a signature from us, you know? I know it's very complex for also a consumer to see that you have like all this range of products, but we are being transparent, you know? We are being, this is what is mezcal. This is how complex it could be mezcal. Why people is not afraid to enter in a liquor store and see wine selection, you know? They have thousands of wines and it's okay for them. Why they are afraid on distillate to have, I always, you know, hear that everywhere. No, if it's in a spirit, you know, this is, but 5 is too much option. But why in wine, the people has not this issue? Maybe there is something there that we can work and try to educate a little bit more, you know, with comparison of spirit and wine. I know it's different, but, you know, we have all this terroir, we have all these different varietals of agave, which I think give us that opportunity as brand, you know, and maybe obviously 750 is too much, maybe a smaller quantity so people can start to, you know, to buy, learn, and finding, you know, maybe create a program, find your agave, you know, so people can each month buy a small bottle and try until they find their own agave. If I'm honest, as Scotch, I just see maybe 4 competitors, and they are friends. Because in my opinion, I don't feel afraid about Diageo, Campari, or these guys. I know very well my community, and I'll be also transparent with you, because then I have a question: what is the total production for all the producing families? For the last 11 years, I've been helping 22, 25, between 22, 25, I don't have it on mind, different brands to be created, you know? The last one that it was, they get a lot of money, and we never got shares or nothing, but we helped them to create everything. It was El Silencio for the first years. Then they get, I think, $15 million for that, which is nothing for us. We just helped them to create that. And we have been doing this for different brands. So if we can produce, imagine, you know, from these 58 families, and from these 58, 30 families can produce 3,000 liters a month. We can, a month, for 12 months, we can produce 1 million liters in 12 months with 30 families. The ones that we produce artisanal, because we can produce 3,000 liters each month. And then you need to plus the 28 that is ancestral mezcal, that we don't produce more than 500 liters a month for 12. We can produce 200,000 liters of ancestral mezcal with the other 28 families. So we can produce, without to push nothing. We pushing a little bit, we could produce in a year 1.5 million liters. Why? Because we are too much families, and we have no problems with agave, because each one has their own agave, you know? So it sounds a lot, but if you compare to and with whatever, you know, I get excited when I say 1 million liters, but you know, there are some distilleries that they can produce that in a month, you know. To and Alberta, I just wanted to start production. So I hope I answer you the, amen. Nice that I read that And put that, we have, and Talia is gonna kill me, and also John and all my friends, because after that we have like 100 expressions with the special editions, I create amen, not for the religious thing, because the meaning of the word, for really small batches of 40 liters and stuff like that. So there is something coming, Koch by amen by Koch, which is like the family, and they just have like 40 liters, and it's like very special stuff also. But yeah, I like the inter-education. I think it's going to 8th grade. It's gonna be a lot of problems, as I think globally is gonna affect, all of us. The more we are in the food industry, in the service industry. In Mezcal, I can see today, I've been calling a lot the last weeks with all the producers. Something good for us that we also have a company that, if we are in some troubles, it's my position and I need to get a loan from the bank or whatever, and I will support all these families. That's my work. We are gonna be okay. But many of producers that they don't have like this strong relation have been calling me, and they are offering us their liquid. I think it's gonna be a lot of people affect in the communities, because they were running in a way that different brands were like buying, and we'll see. At least in Mexico, the government hasn't closed like stuff, but in the communities, they have closed you can go to the communities here. So they are safe, which I'm happy for that.
That's so great.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's the last of the few questions that have been coming through. Thank you so much, Carlos, for doing this and sharing your like amazing wealth of knowledge with us and with everybody. John, you have some final words?
Yeah, just because we're running short on time here, I see John Gray joined us. Do you want to, in 280 characters or less, tell us a little bit about the Bartenders Benevolence Fund for those late joiners?
Hey, buddy.
Hey.
I think you know me better enough to say you can't say a lot of words. Try and keep it short and succinct. That's not my skill set.
Yeah, I'll go get my Chardonnay.
Yeah, that's right. First of all, sorry I missed the beginning of this. I had a lot of issues to take care of before, so my apologies. But good turnout for Mezcal. I love it. That's amazing. And yes, thank you. We're launching the thanks for the platform, Jonathan. I appreciate that. We're launching the Bartenders Benevolent Fund. It's a national incentive. Just go to our website, www.bartendersbenevolentfund.ca, and you can sign up for grants if you need them. We have a pretty cool system set up where none of your information goes towards any of our panels or anything like that. So everything's super discreet, super privacy forward, and they launch tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern time. So keep an eye on the website for that, and we're giving support directly out to the bartenders. Fortunately, a lot of restaurants and bars directly, and the owners of which are getting support, but we're supporting directly the bartenders, a lot like you are with the CPBA as well. So great work on your end too, with what you're working on. We're also on Instagram as well. Keep an eye out on that. We announce every week how many grants and the value of those grants that we're giving out to each province and region. So that happens every Monday. That's going to happen at 5 p.m. today, and then tomorrow at 12, the grants will open up.
That's amazing. Thanks. You can head over to their Instagram. You can also keep an eye on our social media feeds. 2 weeks from now, we're continuing to do spirit sessions every 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from now, just for those of you who are joining us late, we have Cole Benoit from Apothecary Bitters going to teach us all about macerations and infusions, and learn how to do that at home out of your own pantry. Thanks, Evan. Thanks for not bombing us with something inappropriate. That's fantastic. Before I hand it back over to Kelsey for a final goodbye, thank you so much to Kelsey for helping moderate. don't know what we would have done without you today, especially in the first 15 minutes. And thank you so much, Carlos, for spending time, and Talia, who also works with Mezcal Koch. Yeah, look forward to spending more time. Really appreciate all your efforts.
Yeah, of course. Our pleasure.
Thank you so much, John. Thanks for having me. This is a real pleasure.
All right.
Kelsey.
Lots of love, Kels. Lots of love, Carlos. Lots of love, Canada.
Love. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.